it down right now. 56 stories, every play, every time with Rob Browne, breaking it all down. Yeah. SEC, Sidelines Sports on my mind. Rob Browne calling game time, highlight shine, executive mind. Brendan Martin keeping Rob in line. Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sidelines Sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
Got the cop lights on. Cordelli's in the cop lot.
I like the stars, Brendan.
All over. You like the stars?
Hell yeah.
I always just bring a little bit of wrinkle. It's always something new. Got to keep you interested, Rob.
I love it. I love for you. I love the stars, the sprinkles.
Hold them for you, Rob. It's all performative art for you, Robert. It's really your world. You generated this whole thing, Rob.
Well,
your mind. This is your reality, Rob.
No, it is you. It's a team effort. Team effort, man.
The man, the myth, the legend,
yeah.
Robert Browne.
We got the executive
And now,
producer. Executive
Rob
producer,
Browne on the Rob Browne Show.
Hey, I love doing this, and we got the best team. Executive producer, Brendan.
I can't hear you, Rob. The Brad's just playing too damn loud. Woo!
There we go. All right. Hey.
That's me on the banjo. Who's got a guy that solos the banjo? We do. We do.
I saw Tom Petty one time play a guitar with one hand in a concert. He went for 3 hours, but he did it like 3 different times.
Wow.
Amazing. Rob Browne here with you in the Bluff City, Memphis, Tennessee. We are reaching out to you all over Brendan Martin in Ocala, Florida. Got a great lineup today. Coach Pete Cordelli up in Nashville in the mid-state. Coach Ellis Johnson over in South Carolina in the upstate. And Dave Bartoo out west in Oregon from College Football Matrix. Going to join us here in just a minute. Hey, simple, like Brendan says, social media. Hit the button and subscribe. We are on 9 channels of YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you so much.
What's up, gentlemen? Coaches, welcome to the jam. I've got my cop lights on for you, Coach.
Yeah. Hey, they used to sell
what, man. I love this Tuesday version of Brendan. Can we go to Tuesday? Monday, he's tired of that basketball talk. He wants to talk football, man. I love
to talk about football. I got to be honest, I really don't care.
Yeah, I tell you, that was a heartbreaker Sunday. And we
just don't care.
What we're doing right now during basketball season, folks, I know normally this football show, it's the Monday Blitz, but through the Final Four, so starting April 13th, we'll be back on the Monday football Blitz. And then, I mean, basketball will be in the rearview mirror. But it'll be
my cop friend.
Yeah, you got the blue light special. Hey, they used to sell those lights. And you could buy those lights at Central Hardware. And one night I was babysitting for the kids down the street, and the parents came home, and the mom and one of her friends and I put that blue light on the front dash of the station wagon and pulled about 8 people over. And just would drive up, roll the window down, and they would go, "Gotcha!" You do that now, you'd probably be in a gulag for 6 months or something.
I don't know. That story got good really fast there, right? You're talking about the front end of a station wagon.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk about sports today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, look, a lot to talk about. Coach Johnson, Coach Cordelli. It's spring practice. And I know this is your favorite time of the year. Theme of today, early trends, SEC. We got 16 schools, and I kind of broke them into sections. And you look at what I call the Big Six. Those are the 6 schools since 1963. There's only 6 that have won the SEC football championship. You know, Alabama, Florida, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. So want to start, guys, with spring practice right now at Alabama. That job comes with pressure. We know it does. Ty Simpson's going to the draft. He's in the combine. And I'll start with you, Ellis. You've been at Alabama a couple of different tours. The expectations, that's part of the territory. With Kalen DeBoer, all you're hearing is, will he make it through half the season? I mean, honestly, and I'm always honest, that would drive me insane. You know, are you going to get paid this week? I mean, but I know now they get generational wealth. But spring practice at Alabama, what do they got to do to get to the 13 and 14 win plateau and win it all? And then the same question with Pete right after you.
Well, I'm sure when they look at it, review it, do all their quality control. They've probably got a pecking order and a list of things that they want to do. To me, the most glaring thing that it doesn't look like an Alabama team in the physicality of play. And I say that, I think recruiting, I think practice, the way you practice, and just the emphasis of what you're doing can lead to that. But I watch them play, and they're not a really physical football team in the box on either side. And I've always said that an offensive line is where a college football team's physicality starts, because I just think you can't scrimmage anybody else. You don't have exhibition games. You're constantly working against yourself. And I think the physical nature of your football team is reflected in your offensive line. And a lot of teams today are running systems that don't have physical play in the front because it's just the style of offense they're running. Yeah. All this RPO, zone. I mean, there's no power, there's no counter gap, very little of it. And so I think it just, I think it just becomes their personality. But I don't see the typical Alabama football team playing physical throughout 60 minutes every week. And I think that's got to change if they're going to ever get back to anywhere close where they were.
Roger that. Coach Pete Cordelli, your observations from the mid-state up in Nashville.
I agree 1,000,000% with Ellis. Alabama had the worst rushing year last year since 1956. I mean, guys, come on. Alabama's been known for being physical year in and year out. And I'm jealous. Your offensive line in college football is where it all starts. The off-season program that all these colleges just went through in January and February getting ready for spring practice. I don't know how much emphasis is being put on run blocking. Again, I agree with Coach Johnson 1,000,000%. Everything's pass first, run second. Where when he and I were coaching, it was run first, pass second. So here's the question that becomes, and I've sat in staff meetings, Ellis has too. How do you get linemen to come off flat back, get movement at the point of attack, play after play, and then when you want a football, how do you get them to be in a pass set situation? It's about sitting in the chair. Well, flat back, steeply inside, expand the front side, run downhill. That's gap scheme. That's your power game. Toss, swoop, all those things. We had 5 runs in our offense. Every week, 3 of them had to be primary, 2 of them were secondary. But the one thing that we did, in case somebody started to put
Pete, you're breaking up. Can you try to reboot? Okay, yeah, we'll try to reboot. But you saw where he was going, Ellis Johnson, and Dave Bartoo's on here with us right now. College football matrix, folks. This is it. Everything's changed in college football. Offensive linemen, they're not what they were 10 years ago. It's completely different, and you're lucky if you got them in spring practice together, the same group that you're going to have in the fall. But now with the portal changing to January 2nd to the 16th, it's different. Dave, kind of what we're looking at today, football heavy on this Tuesday, early trends on what we're seeing happening in the SEC. I mean, every team is going to go through spring practice. Some have got a lot more work to do than others, but they all got to do something. But what you see nationally, what are some trends that keep you up at night, disturb you, and what are some things that you like that you're seeing in college football? You got a great handle on the game, the big picture.
David, tell me your dreams, David. David, tell me.
Get inside
David,
of it.
David, lay down, bro, and just go deeper today, bro. All right, let's get cerebral,
What
man.
keeps you up at night? I live in Oregon. Dude, THC is like option out here. I don't have any problem sleeping, bro. Never, ever.
Yeah. I got you.
Oh my gosh! Now, actually,
It is like oxygen. That's the line of the day.
Oh yeah. So nothing really keeps me up, but I like being a contrarian with stuff. And I always go with the data, and it's not pass first. Okay. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the run pass ratio is largely unchanged. It's in your brain. You just think it is because they emphasize, now the run game might be shittier. Okay. It might be worse. Everything is worse. The whole brand of football you're watching is worse. Okay. And I believe it's because of the lack of continuity. You have constant switch in coaches, players. Everything is in motion. And so what I really believe is that what we see today, the brand of college football, would be absolutely smoked by your top teams of just a decade ago. But the sizes, they're not changing. The speed hasn't changed. Okay. This whole speed era in the NFL blew that up. That doesn't exist. All these guys are still basically the same size and same speed, right? Intelligence, it's not any better or worse. Coaching, is it really that much better or worse than it was before? I mean, how much can you really truly advance over one or two groundbreaking concepts? You're a Chip Kelly for a decade until everybody catches up with it. But football's football. And I just feel that the brand you're seeing now isn't what it was before. And nothing really keeps me up at night. I think the exciting part of it, if you're going to embrace something, embrace the unknown. Doesn't Indiana win a national title without the portal? God, no. Not a shot in hell does it happen, which is the opposite of what I thought was going to happen. I thought the talent would be more compressed into the big money programs, and it's not. It's spread out. The talent's thinner. The depth is thinner. It gives everybody more of an opportunity, like in Indiana, which would have never happened before. I'll keep saying it. Greatest thing that has happened in college football in my life, and I don't see it repeated ever. But I just think the brand of football we have is different, and the coaching is probably, they have less time coaching because they spend more time trying to convince guys to stay or find guys to replace them.
Great point. Pete, you're back with us.
Yep.
And Dave made a good point. He said the data doesn't show that. It's still more run than pass. It's just how they do it. But the brand, as far as toughness, the teams of 5 and 10 years ago would run roughshod over the teams now. And also, it's interesting. This past season, Indiana has their greatest season in school history, which isn't saying a whole lot because they were the losingest team in history. But also, Vanderbilt won more games than they've ever won in a single season. It's all about the portal, Coach Pete Cordelli, with great internet now.
Well, I truly believe that what I was saying, how many times do we hear coaches or even talk show hosts, reporters, what's your identity? What's your identity? Well, let me tell you something about high school kids. Their identity is 7-on-7, throw the football. How many high school teams really run the football with great success? So now when you are recruiting a kid, like Dave just said, you're spending more time recruiting and convincing them to come, or in the transfer portal, well, how much do you throw the football? How can you get me to the league? It's not running the ball. Those cats on the perimeter don't want to hear, well, you're going to have to block first. Where at Notre Dame, you had to block as a receiver first if your ass was going to see the field. That's a direct quote from the former head coach.
Yeah.
And his whole deal was toughness. That's why Timmy Brown was one of the best blockers in the National Football League, and then he became an all-pro receiver after his second year. But today, in today's game, there are some teams still running the football. But my question is always, everybody in the stadium knows there comes a point in every game you have to run the football to keep a possession going. Can you create movement at the point of attack? And a lot of times, guys can't because they don't base block anymore. It's zone. It's what Jim Huber used to call the ooze block. Here, come off and try to reach, but if you don't, throw your left hip and your left cheek and your left ass into the defender. Ooze him off the ball. And it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you talking about? Ooze doesn't work in football.
Yeah.
It's the only game we play. You got to put your face in somebody else's chest 60, 70, 80 times a game. How mentally, how strong are you mentally to do that? And the problem is, it's not being coached on the high school level. When you get to college, it's more about schemes and things like that. And I agree with Ellis. It's what you identify as how you're going to put your priority of practice time. If you're spending 70% of your practice time throwing the football, how do you get good at running it? Ryan Grubb got fired. Ryan Grubb got fired by the Seattle Seahawks because Mike McDonald did not want to throw the football that much in Seattle for the Seahawks. He goes and hires Clint Kubiak, and the Seahawks win the Super Bowl because they ran the football. And they had Charbonnet and Kenny Walker, K9.
Yeah.
Charbonnet gets hurt, and Kenny Walker takes over, Super Bowl MVP. But that offensive line got better because Mike McDonald's philosophy was we run the football. He learned that from John Harbaugh with the Ravens. Yeah. In college now, Ryan Grubb goes to Alabama. What happens last year? Worst rushing year in Alabama football history since 1956.
Ears Wilson.
Ears Whitworth was the coach. He was a great coach. They should have given him a contract extension.
I'm going to tell you
I heard that name 100 times.
Ears Whitworth.
His name was J.B. Ears Whitworth.
Anytime we looked like we sucked, somebody would come by and say, y'all look like the Whitworth era around here.
Ears. All right, Ellis Johnson. Ellis, and then back to Dave to analyze this. Your thoughts on that. If you don't line up and butt heads and build toughness every day, you can't just say, okay, let's be tough on game day. I think it's impossible.
I think everybody's correct in what they're saying, but it all can be true at the same time. I don't doubt that they're running the ball, attempting to run the football in a game about the same number of times as they used to. And when I say I used to, I was used to 10 years ago or used to 50 years ago. I mean, there's a difference. But what's happening is the style of run. In other words, they don't work on the types of run that develop physicality. And whether they're really good at it or not, if you don't ever do it on the practice field, your defensive line's getting soft and you don't know it. But the RPOs, I think, ushered this in. And it's a great concept, and hell, everybody in America runs it. But most of the time, it's off of a zone play with zone blocking, all this side to side, and, just kind of like you were talking about a minute ago, Pete, it's oozing. And it's still a good play. But you've got to have some power schemes, and you got to have some counter gap, all that, to let your offensive linemen be physical at the point of attack. And then that will make your defensive front more physical as a result. It's also just another thing that defenses have to fit correctly. So that's my point. I mean, if you can come up with the statistics to say they're trying to run the football just as much, I mean, I know that. But I don't think, and then the other thing that Dave said is no question, the talent's getting dispersed over about 50 teams now, where it used to be concentrated in about 15 of them. So you're going to see a lot less quality in the play, but it's a little more parity, I guess.
Well, interesting. All right, Dave, here's a stat. I think when Alabama got down 17-0 in Norman in that playoff game, for the game, Alabama had 26 rushes. And they averaged, and I heard Chuck say this, 4 feet per carry. And they had one time last year, Alabama, Jam Miller, he was the only guy that ran for over 100 yards in a game. That's the stat. So throw some other stats out there, Dave. I know College Football Matrix, hempforpros.com. You crunch numbers and you tell stories. So I'm ready to hear them, and the whole world is. I love this.
Yeah, what the guys just said is college football is stylistically, is, at least in their opinion, is a worse product today than it was before. Right? I mean, it's just the high school level they're not coaching them up relative to what they think is good football, and at the college level they don't have time. You noted the Seattle Seahawks. Well, at the professional level, you get to pick and choose the guys that have the mental toughness, have the mental makeup, be the professional to run the football. At the collegiate level, because of the a lot of these guys got to get some more good wide receivers that don't want to make a block. These wide receivers want the football. So, again, college football, I don't believe it's a fair comparison at all in terms of the brand of football. I will say that it still remains, no matter how bad you run the football, okay, you have to run the football, because every year for the last 20 years in college football, Power 4 football, drives that have more rushes than passes average more points per drive.
Dave, can you read? Yeah.
Average.
Dave, can you reboot real quick? We're hearing about every other word. If you could try that and come back in, because that's an interesting stat he just threw out there. Drives that average more rushes than passes lead to more scores. So, Dave, that stat that you just gave, how far back does that? That's a current? That's an amazing stat.
No, it's decades. It's decades. It goes way back. It really is, to me, a foundation of football, whether it's the NFL level or college football. You got to be able to have a run game, right? You have to, even if it doesn't work. That was one of the concepts of just trying to beat Saban too. When you looked at the very few games that he lost, the teams that would beat him tried to run the football, tried to control the game running the football. And I feel that running the football, quality run game. But in my opinion, you need a quality run game to be able to control the football game more than score in the football game. So complementary and balanced football. If you don't have it, I do feel you're going to get beat more often than not.
Yeah.
I was visiting with Rich Bisaccia, special teams coach from the pros. He's at Clemson now. We were chatting yesterday, and we got into something. I don't know how we ended up on this subject, but he was talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. And he said they're winning in that league because they take the air out of the football from the time the game starts. They run the football. They got the quarterback that is the worst downfield thrower in the league, but they still win because they can play defense and they shorten the game. And it's a good formula for winning in the NFL because you don't get so many shots at those great receivers outside.
All right, I want to throw this one out at you, and we'll start doing rapid fire, kind of 60 seconds or less, all over the place. But, Pete, years ago, Coach E, Gordon Ellingsworth, remember him at Rhodes, coached offensive line about 40 years, went to St. Augustana College up in Illinois. He told me he was at an offensive line. It was a conference. Art Kehoe, former offensive line coach at Miami, told him this years ago. He said, in the future, football will go through a monumental change, and the wide receivers will be the divas. They're not going to want to run block. They're not going to want to block. They're just going to say, give me the damn ball. And it's going to drive a lot of coaches to pull their hair out. True or false? You agree with that? What's happened now? I know Art Kehoe said it because Coach E said it.
I know, but I don't believe that's the way it is in college. I believe that's the way it is in the National Football League. Okay. But in college, you've got to get the ball to everybody. And I don't think they've had that problem at Ohio State where someone has said, unless you get me the ball, I'm getting in the transfer portal. Ohio State has produced more NFL-ready receivers since Ryan Day's been there. And I haven't really heard about the I over team mentality out of that receiver room at Ohio State. Now, you're going to have some. There's no doubt about it. But when everybody understands that it doesn't matter who gets the credit, if we're winning, everybody has a chance to go to the next level. That offensive line clinic that Coach E was talking about, it's held every year in Cincinnati. It was put together by Jim McNally, and it is one of the best college football, offensive football meetings around. And they go over offensive line play every year. But Mouse McNally's the one that put it on. I want to go back to something. I didn't mean, when I said Ryan Grubb got fired at Seattle, I didn't mean to compare the NFL run game to the college run game. Yeah. My point was, Mike McDonald knows you got to run the football. Ryan Grubb is a pass first guy, run second. We saw that at Alabama last year. Ellis is exactly right. The RPO game came in off the zone play when Gus Malzahn and Hugh Freeze got into college football. Yeah. They were very successful high school coaches with that system. When Auburn beat Alabama and the left tackle was 15 yards down the field for Auburn and Nick Saban could not get the official to throw the flag, that's when Nick Saban said, you know what? I can't beat them, so I'm going to join them. And that's when he hired Lane Kiffin to put in the RPO. Because those rules, well, is he 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards down the field for a lineman? Officials weren't calling that. So I credit Nick with adjusting to what he had to do. Rob, in 1979, when I was at Arkansas, we played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Alabama beat us 28-7. They could have beat us 128-7. They absolutely mollywopped us. All right. I mean, it was an ass kicking like you wouldn't believe.
That's a real word.
Yeah.
We're walking across the field. Coach Holtz goes to shake Coach Bryant's hand, and Coach Bryant says, Lou, just got to tell you, that's the best game we've played in the last 2 years. And you know how quick-witted Coach Holtz was. He said, well, I'm glad I had the best seat in the house to see my ass get whipped, because they absolutely wore out. So now Coach turns to go to the locker room, and there's about 3 of us walking around him, and he just starts talking. He said, I did this team an injustice. And one of the coaches said, Coach, what do you mean? He said, the Veer offense is done. Not only can we not get it done on offense, he said, but where I really did an injustice was to our defense, because we weren't tough enough to take on the I formation that Alabama ran. Yeah. And it is a complete team. And he said, from here on, when we get back to Fayetteville, we're going to go find physical linemen and running a tailback that wants to run downhill and through people. I'm done with the Veer. Yeah. That was before we got to the locker room and after the game. He realized that we weren't physical enough offensively, but we held our defense back because we never practiced that, which goes to Ellis's point about you got to practice. And Dave's point, you got to do that. And from then on, we went to the eye, and that's when we got Gary Anderson. And I mean, we got some pretty good people at Arkansas, but we also made our defense a lot tougher after that game.
Yeah, Pete, I know it was 24-9. I remember that game, and Alabama had a tight end named Keith Pugh. They threw a touchdown to him, almost like an RPO on the left end. Running back was Major Ogilvy from Mountain Brook, Alabama. Quarterback Stedman Shealy from Dothan, Alabama. Hell, I remember that game quite well because I had lunch Friday down at Calvary with my friend Tommy Christenberry, who was a member of that Arkansas team. He loves you as a coach. All right, Dave, I want to throw one to you, and then Ellis to respond to it. You talk about that. We think things are changing, yet you came back to square one and said they're really not. It's just when they run them. What is it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's about narrative. right? What narrative is being driven, in college football? To your point, one of your points, you asked, are wide receivers tougher to deal with now? Okay, no, they've always been a pain in the ass. They really have, because even before the portal, because one of the data sets, and I started working on this over a decade ago, and I was looking at, and this was before NIL. Okay, the transfer portal wasn't even on the horizon. I was looking at player retention by position relative to where they grew up. And what the data showed me is that there were 3 prima donna positions. And I called them prima donna positions because these were absolutely the 3 positions that were most likely to leave your program in the first 2 years. Okay? Based on being far away from home, right? And wide receiver, running back, quarterback. Those 3. That's your prima donna positions. Those guys, 1 in 3 chance of leaving in the first 2 years if they were more than 300 miles away from home. Okay? And so psychologically, you think about it, these guys in high school, who are the most popular football players in high school? Who has all the people telling them they're great? Quarterback, running backs, wide receivers. And so it was kind of my hypothesis is all of that praise and love, the people around them, when they were taken out of that environment, they couldn't handle it mentally as well. And so they left earlier. And that's why and most of them went back towards home. There's another reason why, even if you don't get a recruit, you get on them early and you get a relationship with them, especially now, they might boomerang right back to mama. Okay, so those are the 3 prima donna, and that is way before the portal, and it still holds true. There are more running back, quarterback, wide receiver transfers today than there are any other position in spite of the portal. So it's always been there. I think it's just how you perceive it in a different light today.
Yeah, and prior to the portal, which became officially the law of the land. Thank you, Thomas Mars. That's how that happened. October 15th of 2018, 42% of all quarterbacks who signed a college scholarship finished their career at a school different from where they started it. And that stat now, I bet's a lot higher, Ellis. And you know what Dave just said. And that's what I heard Alex Golish, Auburn's new coach, is doing. He's going, we're going to go to high school, but we're going to build relationships with them. So in a year or two, when they're ready to leave, they know us. That goes to what Dave just said. Ellis, if you were hired today as a consultant at an SEC school, let's say Florida. Let's use Florida as an example. John Summerall's in there. How would you approach the recruiting game? Because you're a killer recruiter. You're great at it. Yeah. You don't want to do it, and I know that now.
I don't know. I mean, seriously, with all the portal and NIL and everything, I'm a fish out of water now. I mean, I have no concept about it because it just, I mean, there was some shenanigans that went on, but as far as sitting down and discussing a contract and an amount of money with a high school kid, I mean, I can't fathom it. And if I was, in a position like that, and I understand your question completely, but I wouldn't be the guy for that job.
Yeah.
And because of lack of knowledge and because I really don't have a desire to figure it out. It just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
I was tickled when Dave was talking about that guys running back home. I can remember at the Citadel, we'd get maybe 6 or 8, 10 kids from up north every recruiting class. We'd get about 6, 8, or 10 down in Florida. When shit got where everybody was grumbling about the military and about two-a-days and about spring practice and everything, and Florida kids were going to be the first ones to leave because there was something down there that we could keep those northern kids there because we had the beach about 5 miles over from campus, and we had Charleston, South Carolina, and some of those northern guys, hell, they loved it. But those guys from Florida, they took off and went back down to Florida, and the attrition was much worse for those guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Dave. I love these numbers. They all make sense. And I'm going to throw another one to Dave and then back to Pete. when you look at early player identification, I want you to talk about what you're doing because this is powerful stuff. Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix. Hold on, we have. I love that. Wow. Oh my gosh. That is Ellis Johnson's picture should be in Webster's dictionary. That's just my personal opinion.
They need to deputize Pete.
They do. I love this. All right. So mollywopped. To beat or strike someone with significant force, to be completely and soundly defeated, as in he got mollywopped. I love it. Dave, I got to ask you. Dave's looking at now early player identification, College Football Matrix. Let the free world, and there's a lot of people watching. We are so blessed. Thanks all of you about what you're doing. I think this is going to be a big time upgrade for any college that hires you.
Well, now that you said goal is just trying to create relationships at every level to get guys back. Maybe he should hire me for my new position I want to create in early player identification. But no, we this started a while ago with the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you'd mentioned it before, but I was talking 4 years ago now, talking with an assistant GM at Philadelphia. And using physics and kinematics, using math to identify athleticism in the draft. And it was designed really to filter out the guys that just were on the edge of not having enough athleticism. It wasn't to really identify the good players. It was to weed out the ones that would cost you in the draft. And we worked with MIT, we worked with Michigan State, Purdue, Johns Hopkins on this math. And found it very valuable. It was a working filter in the NFL. And then we adjusted it for athletes under the age of 18. And so one of my goals right now is to take that math and literally create a new position for myself at a college football program. And then that is simply being the director of early player identification and remote scouting. And essentially using the math and workouts to filter through athletes without watching their film. Just do they have the full body athleticism to make my roster at Auburn, at South Carolina, at Miami? And so, for example, there is a full body combine that we are running in North Carolina this coming weekend. There are 1,300 football athletes, class of 2027 through 2031. And when it is over, I will be able to tell you exactly which guys to start a relationship and which ones to ignore. I know that we'll miss a couple, but overall, those 1,300, there's going to be less than 100 guys that'll be identified, and it will save a god-awful amount of time and resources in the early player identification. So that's one of the things I'm working on nationally. I'd love to be able to bring it to just one school and start moving that forward on their player relationships earlier than camps or film or anything else out there.
All right, Pete Cordelli, I'm going to throw to you first, and then I'm going to Ellis's after that. Pete, you've got a lot of connections around the country. Wouldn't it make sense to have someone like a Dave Bartoo? I would just open up the vault.
Without question, Dave Bartoo is more valuable than any of the recruiting analysts that have been hired. The only thing that has increased in college football staffs are the off-the-field support staffs. And I'm going to say this. At Coach Holtz's funeral, I ran into 3 current college football coaches. There were a number of people there. And I asked all 3, in new situations, how's it going? Well, we're trying to establish the communication between the portal, the high school evaluators, and our coaching staff. All three said to me, the last staff that was here, they let the interns evaluate prospects and then bring the prospects to the coaches. And I said, that's why they're not there anymore. I said, here's why. When we were at Notre Dame, if I'm recruiting Dave Bartoo, Ellis Johnson, Rob Browne, if you're on offense, 3 offensive coaches and 1 defensive coach had to evaluate you. If you're on defense, 3 defense, 1 offense. Here's why. After 2 years, if a guy isn't seeing the field, he usually wants to get on the field, so he may have to go to the other side of the ball. Right now, these 3 programs are trying to get the coaches more involved in evaluations for their positions because, in fact, 2 of the 3 had gone through 1 week of spring practice and said, wow, we got to make some changes if we're going to win. But it's because of how it's being handled internally. It reminds me of some NFL organizations. The scouting and personnel department gives these coaches the players, and the players go, we can't win with these guys. There's no vertical integration. Dave Bartoo will create vertical integration and tell you, here's what I think. Now go match it up with the film. We don't have that right now. We don't have who the great player can be and then have Dave come up with his list of 5, 10, 20 guys as quarterbacks, linebackers, receivers, and then go, now match this up with the tape. And then who fits our system? And Dave's exactly right. Yeah. You cut down on time and you become more efficient. And now you're not spinning your wheels chasing guys that can't play for you. I mean, this is the wave of the future, the way Dave wants to go. But the problem is human nature.
Dave, jump in. I want to hear this. Is great.
Somebody. Well, I know this. Yeah. After the 87, 88, 80, and 90 class, 25 guys, 100 players we signed, 41 of them got drafted. In the NFL, 7 more signed as free agents. That's the proof. And those numbers, you can look them up. I mean, Dave Bartoo's numbers matched up. If Dave Bartoo gave Ellis Johnson 5 linebackers and Ellis went and matched the tape, I guarantee you, Ellis is going to have more and Ellis has coached many All-Americans. He's going to have 4 to 5 more All-Americans there because of the information Dave has given them. Right now, we got young people that can't tell you if it's pumped or stuffed, man. I mean, come on. They're paying these guys $25,000 a year to be information gatherers, not evaluators. Where Dave Bartoo, he's done this for a living. Ellis Johnson has done this for a living. You match those 2 up, hell, I don't want to play against them. I know that.
Yeah, Pete, let me throw this to Dave, answer, and then back to Ellis. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah. No, the he hit it right there. Vertical integration, right? And this ties into Ellis saying, I can't recruit in this environment anymore. I don't want Ellis to recruit in this environment anymore. The vertical integration is I go out and I find and I identify the players with athleticism that can make Clemson's roster, right? And then I feed those guys up the vertical integration to the video guys. And this is where an Ellis Johnson with decades of experience doesn't even have to leave the house to do player scouting and evaluation for me. I could go hire Ellis as my next guy above me to start watching these players. And then the next step of the vertical integration, so we have the athleticism, and then we have the player ability. The third factor is mental toughness. And this is where we have compartmentalized these kids. I've filtered them. Ellis has filtered them. We invite these kids to a camp. not to show us how good they're at camp, but to sit down with the Pete Cordelli and decide how tough is this son of a bitch? How hard is he going to play? How hard is he going to block? So the vertical integration is the three pillars of great athletes: athleticism, cognitive playing ability, mental toughness. And every time we filter it down and use me and a guy like Ellis to evaluate, and a guy like Pete to evaluate the mental toughness, and at the end, you have one guy who's been evaluated in the three most important factors, and you build your roster with guys that are peak at all three pillars, you are going to destroy programs if you have a roster full of those guys.
Ellis, jump in. That you cannot. Wow.
Well, that's a little bit of a tangent, but when staff started getting bigger off the field, and I remember I would hear some of the full-time coaches saying, you know, what they need to do is they need to do it like the pros. We need to stay here and coach the football team and need to put those other guys out on the road recruiting. You know, when you get into coaching, unless something's weirdly wrong with you, the most fun aspect is coaching young people. Not watching tape, not recruiting, not meeting parents. All that's okay. I mean, some guys are better at it than others. But coaching young people is fun. And it's what you did for 10 or 15 years as a player. And you're just into it. You know, it's just like a kid going to math class and he's unmotivated and he's a pain in the butt to the teacher. He goes out on the football field 3 hours later and the head coach loves him because he just wants to be there and he's running around like a wild man. It's just human nature. And so coaches, you have to understand, if you don't want to recruit, you don't want to coach in college. You have to. And I understand, Dave is right. If you had somebody with his expertise that can weed that thing down on physical abilities and things that have proven to create good players athletically, then you run them through another vertical step, another one. You know, how many you have, that's up to your program. But you get everybody involved. Pete and I got a very good mutual friend, Daryl Moody. After Daryl coached in college, he went into pro scouting and he worked for a guy named Buddy Nix. And Buddy was kind of head guy at San Diego. Then he ended up at Buffalo, but I knew him not as well, but I knew Buddy. But those guys were constantly telling me that the coaches in the NFL need to be more involved with the draft picks. And I know there were some places that got them more involved, but, you know, you have an owner come in on the last day and say, we're not taking that guy. We're going to get this 4.240 over here. And some of that kind of stuff goes on. Al Davis was legendary. But too many of them didn't have the coaches making the final decision on these players. And it's illogical. And the same thing starting to happen on the college level if they separate those two units of coaches and they don't have what y'all call vertical integration. It doesn't matter if you got 50 damn coaches, you're not going to get any better.
Hey,
Yeah,
Rob,
and you look at
Rob, that's why
Yes.
I made the manual with the position specifics. That came from the Dallas Cowboys and Coach Landry. And Coach Landry sat down with every assistant coach and said, what's important to you? And here's what's important to me. It's like Coach Landry went to Gene Stallings and said, what's important to you in the secondary? And Beebe said, this is what, and Coach Landry was a player coach for the New York Giants. And they came up with what they looked for. And then he did it with Dick Nolan. He did it with Jerry Tubbs. He did it with Bob Meyer, the offensive line coach. And this has stood up to the test of time. And if you don't have position specifics and the position coach and the head coach or the coordinator of the offense defense being on the same page, you're not going to have a successful program. But now when you add a Dave Bartoo with what he's done, this is cutting edge stuff, man. And you know what? I got to tell you, everybody, you can't replace experience. And that's what Ellis and Dave have. And now when you put it together, these coaches still have to watch tape and evaluate. And Ellis is right. Nick Saban never offered a scholarship to a player he didn't physically see or work out. There's a reason why he had success. Daryl Moody, like like Ellis said, Daryl, you say, Pete, these NFL coaches, he said, man, we never see them. And you know what? How do you run an organization where you're not in sync with each other as to what you want as the product on the field? And then you go, oh my gosh, we're not very good. No question you're not very good because you didn't have the communication to get the right pieces.
Yeah. Well, and you see this a lot in businesses when people are hired and the people that own a company or run a company don't know who they've got as employees. And that's dangerous. It's just like, you're right. Dave, and I'm hearing this just out there in the weeds. We all are listening. We're watching. You better get relationships, but then identify early the numbers. Less is more, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it is. It's, something, and you think about it. I mean, we have back, like when Pete was talking about identifying all those players, right? We had what, half the population we have now in terms of high school players. So we still have the same number of scholarships out there. We have less scholarships. So, you have to evaluate more with the same hours in the day. And I think the process, Pete was talking about, giving these interns the ability to evaluate. What about going the other way? Take the experience. Ellis is sitting there. Hey, Ellis, you want to watch some film for me? Man, I would be out there trying to find guys that don't want to be on the field, but want to be connected, that have the eye and the experience to be able to evaluate guys. I would turn that into a level of efficiency. And create this system, as Pete said, vertically integrated, and have a player work their way through the vertical integration of evaluation and finally get it down to the point of camp evaluations, face-to-face, and having a consistent process every single year and a responsibility of touching on those three things before you get it in front of a coach, before you get it in front of Coach Cristobal, before you get it in front of Coach Golish or in front of Coach Sweeney or any of those guys, is make sure these guys, by the numbers, go through the filters before you even waste a dime bringing them in and talking.
Absolutely agree. I mean, it's about efficiency, but you've got so much stuff coming at you. Ellis Johnson, I would.
Rob, Dave said
great.
something weeks ago, but he was talking about how his job when he helps people find a coach is not so much helping him find the great coach that nobody knows about. It's making sure he doesn't hire the wrong coach. And I'm going to tell you something, recruiting is very similar. Now, my ex-wife and the one before that and the one before that, all three of them could go out and find a 5-star and know they're a player, okay? But when you get down to picking those guys and everybody's fighting for them and all that, you don't want to make a mistake. You want, you're trying to cut down on the number of misses is what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Ellis,
and let the ex-wives go recruit the 5-stars, and you work on the evaluate players.
I love you, Ellis. Man, I love you.
Yeah. I mean, this is just like
somebody does.
Hey, I go back and watch.
Buddy. Oh my God, that is just the shit right there.
You go back and watch these shows, and I watch them like coaches watch tape, and just to see, this is it's one of the best we've ever had. I mean, just in terms of getting inside the heads of some really smart people. Pete, quickly, we only have a few minutes left. When you think about it, you get a Dave Bartoo, and you introduce him to some coaches, I would think they'd be going, wow, you're going to make my life easier, because I hear coaches say, I don't get to coach anymore. I want to coach again. Ellis brought it up earlier. Get back to coaching. Oh, Pete, you're muted. All right. But
I didn't.
yeah, you go. You're good.
I'm excited to hear about the camp in North Carolina. And once that date is compiled, I promise you, I'm going to be on the phone trying to get Dave Bartoo, because now I've got something to present to people. But, back when Ellis and I were in coaching, before all these staffs were put in place and all these numbers. I know this. I had to watch film on Wednesday night after practice of high school recruits, of quarterbacks, receivers. I personally had to do my evaluations, and I tried to get 10 to 12 every Wednesday night. And then Thursday night, I was making 10 to 20 phone calls. I don't know how many college coaches are doing that now. Every Wednesday, I was watching 10 to 12 kids and writing reports. Every Thursday, I was making 10 to 20 phone calls. I don't know how many current coaches are doing that right now. And they're not building relationships until a kid shows up. Like this past weekend, Notre Dame had 40 kids on campus for junior day. They watched them practice. All right. That's the new deal. Junior day, all these people coming. How many phone calls? Well, now they're texting. Back when I thank God I could just pick up a landline and call. Okay. I mean, my God. But we were doing the work as assistant coaches, also getting a game plan ready and coaching on Saturday. So we were doing that work on Wednesday night and Thursday night every week without fail. I don't know how many staffs are doing that right now.
Yeah. And guys, we've run out of time, but this is awesome stuff. And I hope people watching this realize, Pete Cordelli, your experience, you and Ellis, over 70 years of coaching, national championships. That, as Chuck says, what is it, Dave? That ain't nothing. That's a big
Ain't
deal.
nothing.
Shout out to Chuck Oliver and the Chuck Oliver Show, which comes on right after this, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, all over. What do you think? 71 sticks, 11 states. Dave, tell them how they can follow you, and I'll let y'all go. And we'll do it again next week. And I cannot thank y'all. Thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us. It means the world to everybody.
Oh yeah, no, it's people can follow me on Twitter at CFB Matrix. If anybody wants to talk about vertical integration of player identification efficiency with Bartoo, Johnson, and Cordelli. Just send me a text 971-217-8419. We'll change your program.
Yeah, you know what? I just noticed you put that cell phone number out there. Let's keep doing that every time because you are accessible. Guys, we'll do it again next Tuesday. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be talking soon.
Thanks, Browne.
Thanks,
you
Rob.
bet, man. Thank y'all. Executive producer Brendan Martin. Folks, you got to have a great team. It starts with a great producer. So watch all these reels. They're out there all over social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Get out there to Landers Ford, folks. It's Truck Month in Memphis, LandersFordMemphis.com, and also Mount Moriah and I-240. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world, people. We're blessed. Go out and help other people. Thank you. See you tonight.
Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sidelines Sports, y'all come back.